about the minimum wage here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video, and it's up on Canvas. I'm going to disappear from the screen here. And I'm going to take this part.
Democrats are getting ready for a major push to raise the federal minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. Now, that's better than nothing, but it is not enough. The minimum wage should be raised to $15 incrementally over the next 3 years. There are 7 reasons why. 1, had the minimum wage of 1968 been adjusted for inflation, it would be well above $10 an hour today. But the typical worker day is also more than twice as productive as that. Adjusted for both inflation and productivity gains, therefore, the minimum wage should be at least $15 an hour.
Let me just pause it there.
2.
So I've actually got another video that I'll post up there, and it talks about productivity. But productivity is really ridiculous because most of the productivity comes from the fact that business owners are buying machines that make employees more productive. For instance, let's say the example that was on the video is if you've got a restaurant and you're paying a guy, I don't know, let's say $1 an hour to wash dishes. He's got 300 dishes to wash. He's able to wash, let's say, 100 dishes in 1 hour. So that's 3 hours. Pay him $3 to wash those dishes. You're paying him $1 an hour to do 100 dishes. Let's say you buy a machine, a big dishwashing machine. Now he can wash like 500 dishes in an hour. So he's 5 times more productive than he was. You were paying him $1, now you're supposed to pay him $5 an hour. The machine does most of the work, right? The machine does almost all the work. And so the idea of productivity is pretty ridiculous, not to mention most productivity in the economy comes not from minimum wage areas, but it comes from the medical field, and doctors do not make minimum wage. So most people that are making minimum wage, this is not anything bad. You know, I made less than minimum wage. I made 10 cents more than minimum wage my first job, but I was a courtesy clerk, had to join the union, had to pay union dues, made 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month. So 40 hours, that's $4 I was making over minimum wage, what I would have got, but I had to pay $14, I think it was a month, or was it every 2 weeks? I was way behind though. So I made less than minimum wage. And there's nothing wrong with minimum wage job. I also didn't get food or anything else, right? So productivity, you know, as a waitress, are they quicker than they were back then? Is a guy at McDonald's at the register faster? Well, he probably is, because the register is much more high tech than it used to be. He doesn't have to do any calculations or anything. If you watch McDonald's, what is it? What's that McDonald's franchise? No, was that what it's called? Anyways, the McDonald's movie, you know, the way that they used to do it. So, but more important, I want to get to this 1968. Why 1968? Well, I'll tell you why 1968. It's a purely, you think, oh, it must be when it was invented or something like that. Nope, purely arbitrary. So hopefully you can see this. This is facts about the minimum wage. 1968 just happens to be the highest real inflation-adjusted wage, or minimum wage, right? So, you know, if they were to go back to the original year, minimum wage could be $4 an hour, and it would be better off than it was. But they arbitrarily choose 1968, not purely arbitrary, but because it helps enforce their ideas most. Right? It doesn't really make any sense from a purely objective viewpoint. There's no reason to do that, but again, they just choose it because, as you can see on the graph here, it is the highest real price, right? So, sorry you can't see that, but I just raised it above the monitor. Sorry about that, guys. But there it is right there, right? So you can see this. I will post it up there, right? Okay, so let me get back to the video, which again, you can watch along with this if you like. Let me also play this other one I thought was pretty interesting.
If the minimum wage was chained to worker productivity,
this guy, socialism,
it would be at a minimum
socialist, very openly about it.
$18.30 an hour.
It's really ridiculous claim.
So whenever you hear conservatives or capitalists make the argument that, you get what you deserve, this country's a meritocracy, the harder you work, the further you go, your response to that should be, That's fantastic. So I can sign you up to be in favor of an $18.30 minimum wage?
Comical. I think
So
it's a comic.
I'll explain the productivity thing real quick, and then we'll take this all apart. When Robert Reich says $21 based on productivity, that would be the same as saying you have a restaurant and you have 300 dishes that need to be cleaned an hour. So you pay a guy an hour to clean the dishes. Then you spend the money and invest in a dishwashing machine. The same guy can wash the dishes at 5 times the speed. You don't give him 500% increase.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back to the lecture. Sorry about this
He's
funky.
paid based on the fact that if he doesn't want to do the job, plenty of other people will take the job. So the argument that productivity means anything is really irrelevant.
So let me get back to this.
$10.10 an hour is not enough to lift all workers and their families out of poverty. This is especially true for millions of low-wage workers who want full-time jobs but can only find part-time work. Most low-wage workers are not teenagers. They're major breadwinners for their families. 3, because
Okay, so this is not really an argument to raise the minimum wage. We want to just give money to people, but we don't want to give money to people. We want to force other people to give money to third parties, right? That's what he's saying right there. He's a millionaire, you know, he could hand out money, but he doesn't want to. If you feel bad about a minimum wage, you can always tip them. You do things like that. But more importantly, there's no reason to think that raising the minimum wage is going to lift people out of poverty, because the benefits you get from keeping yourself below the poverty level are extravagant. So let's say you get housing vouchers. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about people that are living below the poverty line. I think they're being perfectly rational when they do this, but they calculate, am I better off making $15,000 or am I better off making $22,000? The fact is you're better off making $15,000. So let's say, and I'm not sure what the poverty level is, but I think let's say it's around 20,000, okay? So this is the cap. If I make $15,000 a year, I can get housing vouchers, and in Seattle, housing is very expensive. If you get a voucher, they were talking about building low-rent apartments for people that make less than so much, and I think it's like 25,000, 30,000 in Seattle because it's pretty high standard of living. But they were going to make some brand new apartments. They were on the water, beautiful. It would have been like a $2,000 market value, but they probably would have paid $500. But let's just say that it's $1,000 per month housing voucher, plus you can get food stamps, you can get all kinds of things. But just that right there, that's $12,000, right? So $15,000 a year plus $12,000 in housing. That at least is a minimum $27,000 a year in value. Now, if I, instead of making 15, I make 20, let's say I just make $25,000 a year. Now, plus a big fat zero, and I'm gonna put it greater than 27. So now I'm making 25,000. So even though I got that raise from 15 to 25,000 because I'm getting paid more per hour, and again, it's going from, well, in 15, so going from 725 to 15 is more than double. But, so it would have been like 30 something. But let's just say that they're making 15,000 a year, which is about minimum wage. Now they're making 25 or something like that. So remember, prices are going to go up, all kinds of things. They actually make less money than they did before. So what they do, and this has actually been found, I predicted this, just toot my own horn here. So I predicted it, but what they found is in Seattle is that people actually worked less. You get paid more per hour. So let's say it takes 40 hours a week to make 15, and now at 40 hours a week you can make 25,000, but I want to make 15 and I want to get my $12,000 in housing because I don't want to move. So what